Quick Save Podcast. My name's Josh.
And I'm Alex.
And today we're continuing our series here on No News November. No news.
Not a drop.
Not a drop. And there's a lot. We've thought about breaking our streak, No News November, but we can't. We got to keep on this.
I want to talk about some stuff like right now.
No.
But I'm not going to.
No.
I'm not going to.
No, we've discussed this. We're on news lockdown. Moratorium on news.
But did you hear about...
No, I didn't, and I won't speak about it. So we're going to talk about today. Our topic is another just kind of things we think it would be good for the general public to know if you don't know a lot about video games, just getting into collecting, stuff like that. We're giving kind of our expertise, our 2 cents on some topics. So last week we talked about garage sailing, do's and don'ts, tips, and what have you. And this week we're talking about what to expect from your local retro game store.
We talked about how to act appropriately at garage sales, and now we're going to talk about how to act appropriately at a brick and mortar store.
Exactly. So it was like a more kind of personal setting, and now we're talking about a more professional setting, which you had more experience with garage sales. I obviously had more experience with working at a local game store because I've been there for like 4 or 5 years, something like that.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Obviously, retro game stores are kind of like snowflakes. No two are the same. I wanted to share some insight into what you should expect as a customer from your store. Just kind of a general idea. Myself as obviously an employee, and Alex, you as being on the other side of that, being a customer, and what you kind of expect.
Yeah, I'll definitely more of a general idea for the public than probably what they're going to expect from you.
Yeah. So let's really get into the basics, huh? What your store will be like in terms of like inventory. So at my store, we sell it all, from Atari all the way up to PS5 stuff.
You have games.
I've got games, if you can believe it. I've got used. I've got a small selection of new. That won't always be the case at your local retro game stores. They might just have used. Obviously, we do trade-ins for cash or store credit at my place. It depends on the item. We do movies at my place, as some places don't.
You also do like props.
Yep, we have like cosplay stuff. But if you came in to sell movies, I only do store credit on movies. And so that's going to kind of vary from place to place. Some places are games only, some places specialize and stuff, right? Each one really depends. But in terms of inventory, here's what you should kind of expect. They're not going to always obviously have everything you want, and they're not always going to be able to order things. A lot of the times with a local retro game store, it's what walks through the door is what inventory is available. If, I'm lucky, my store we're kind of like a small chain. So if I don't have something, I can see if my other stores in the area have it. But it's also very possible that, if you go to a local game store, it might just be a one of, where, that's the one store is it. So if they don't have it, they don't have it. And Alex, what is your kind of experience? I mean, you go not just to obviously my store, but you travel down to Florida, go to local game stores like that.
Yeah, I travel mainly between Arizona, Florida, and Minnesota. I think are the big 3 I stop at the most.
Yep.
It really depends on your region, because Arizona has a lot of these, like, it's half anime store, half video game store, it feels like. They're kind of in that central point between LA and the rest.
And
that people tend to want to go more for like the anime side.
I was going to say, and that might be just kind of what sells down there, right? It depends what you're kind of shooting for.
Over in Florida is a port for the US, so there's tons of like, import games that will come through. When I go to Florida, I usually try to shop for Japanese only games. I've gotten a ton of Famicom, Super Famicom. I've gotten oddball stuff. Like I've gotten European versions of games that we have here, but they're just like slightly different. You think of it, I could probably find it in Florida. I'm not going to lie.
Sure.
There's so much.
Pacific Northwest is kind of the same way with like imports and stuff like that. Sees a lot of movement, obviously being kind of close to that side of things.
I mean, a place I want to go to specifically is Washington. I mean, you got Nintendo headquarters up there. Washington, Oregon area is like the birthing grounds for a lot of video game companies. They started out there and then have spread from there. Microsoft started up there. Nintendo of America started up there. I don't know. I think Sony probably had like a building early starting up there, would be my guess.
Yep.
So video games were plentiful down there. And if you watch Metal Jesus on YouTube, he talks about. He lives, I think, just like outside of Seattle, and he's like, yeah, I find, here's how I find stuff in my local area. It's crazy the stuff he'll show on like Craigslist or something.
Yeah.
And then Minnesota, I recently just took a trip down there again, going through some stuff. Minnesota's weird, man. It is so hit and miss.
There's like a lot of really small time stuff.
Yeah,
like,
there's a
stores
lot.
are really small.
It's either like super small or big. There's no in between. Usually, the in between stores are like the most because they have a little bit of everything and they generally have a good selection. I did find one store in Minneapolis specifically. I was looking around kind of in the other cities too. There's one that I found that was like a real small shop. They did board games and they did video games. But when they did video games, they did video games. They had a completely in box Game Boy Color, Pokemon Gold. They had a bunch of Shin Megami Tensei stuff. They had complete in box Nintendo 64 games like Smash Brothers or Super Mario or Mario Golf. Like, I mean, just crazy stuff.
And that's going to be kind of the case across the country. It's really going to vary. I mean, you could come to my store and I might have had a collector come in and buy all my good stuff, and there's, just kind of, it's all been picked over.
Yeah.
Or you might come in on a day where, I just did a 5-bin trade where some dude brought in his whole, GameCube collection, and I've got, all the greatest hits on the floor, right? It really depends. Inventory fluctuates a lot from day to day. And my store specifically, I send shipments to my headquarters, so stuff really is coming in and out of the store every week. Stuff is always changing. So if you walk in and you don't see anything on the floor, I would definitely recommend asking. Something I remember early on when I started working for the company was, if it wasn't on the floor, you'd hear people talking about it. So I'd have people on the floor and be like, oh, it looks like they don't have any GameCubes, right? And that's, obviously my job as an employee is to reach out in that moment and say like, hey, yeah, I've got GameCubes in the back, right? But if you are looking around, you don't see something, ask. I'm sure there's so many people where I didn't hear them say, oh, I guess they don't have a GameCube. I didn't see it in the case, so I guess they don't have this console. When I've had 4 in the back, right? It's definitely something you should ask and say hey, I didn't see this on the floor, but I just wanted to see if you had it. And I have people do that with Switch games and 3DS games.
I ask you all the time for stuff.
Yep.
I'll go, hey, check the other stores, see if they have this.
Do you have this anywhere? If not, no worries. I didn't see it on the floor or something like that. So inventory, definitely ask. Yeah. Let's move on we'll talk about customers and employees, just kind of general idea of what you're going to see. Start with employees. Well, hopefully they're professional, right? You never know. We all have horror stories about the fresh-faced teen who works at the GameStop who, forgot to put your game in the case, stuff like that. I've definitely had people like that who have worked for me who, first time on the job and
maybe first job.
Yeah, had no clue what they were doing, never worked retail before. I've had people interview who are like, yeah, I'm not really a video game person, right? So it's you're going to see definitely a mix of people working in these places. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be really nice if you're nice to them. We're going to follow up kind of just with the garage sale one, but if you're a nice, courteous person, they'll be nice to you back. I've definitely, helped people out, give them a discount, stuff like that, for being nice and generous in the store. Where I see someone helping somebody out, I'll be nice and stuff like that, give them a discount. But let's talk about customers. Now, Alex, you're one of these.
I am. I've also been kicked out of your establishment twice now.
Yeah, by me. Yeah, I mean, so as far as, if you're browsing around, you're going to see, kids. Look, it doesn't matter what day it is. I don't know if these kids are cutting class or what. Look, it'll be Thursday at noon, and there's some kids are walking around my store looking at Wii games, right? So
yeah, I've gotten in on, I've had a weekday off, and I'll go in and it's 11 a.m. and there's kids there, and I'm
parents,
what?
Parents are bringing their 6-year-old into my store at 11 a.m. on a Thursday. I'm like, what are you people doing here? This kid should be in school, man. What are you? But yeah, so I mean, there's kids, obviously there's parents. You're gonna see collectors, obviously, like Alex. I mean, you don't see them. It's. I think collectors are kind of picky. It really depends. Some collectors are really picky about when they show up. Yeah. So I've got our big collector in town who we talked a lot about last episode. He'll
stops in once. Was it every Friday? I think after 5, I think is normally his time.
Yeah, but he'll message me or my boss usually and be like, hey, I'm gonna come to the store on this day, just so you know, right? So some warning of hey, he's bringing
sound the alarm.
Exactly, he's bringing a huge trade, or he's gonna be it's gonna be an hour helping him because he's gonna buy a ton of stuff and it's gonna be a huge transaction. So he'll usually let us know when he's coming in. But yeah, beyond that, I mean, obviously all walks of life. I see it all in my store, top to bottom. There are some not great customers you'll see, complainers and people
Oh
throwing
yeah.
fits. And I mean, it's retail, right? We all see it.
So like
Yeah.
on the customer side, I think a lot of people come in, and I think there's probably like one or two or three different types of customers, right? We talked about you have your collectors, or maybe people that are just more well established in video games, so they know their stuff. They come in, they go, "Hey, I want this, I want that. Do you have anything like that?" I think you have customers that are just getting used to stores like this and knowing when to ask or how to talk
Yeah, a
to
lot of people come in my
stuff.
store saying like, "Yeah, I didn't know you guys were here," right? Like it's my first time in this store, right? So
Yep.
yeah, definitely new folks.
There's good and bad in each of those groups. I've seen it all. I've seen the new guys that try to come into stores and they'll walk up and they're like, "Hey, do you have this? Do you have that?" And they just ask a ton of questions at first and they're just trying to
And
understand.
that's
That's
like
good and bad.
I don't mind that, but it's like it'd be better. See, I don't like when people ask and ask and ask. If you, let's say you have a list of 20 games and you want me to look for each game, just give me the list. It's faster for me to look if I have the list. If you just say, "Do you have this?" No. Okay. Do you have this? No. Do you have this? It's just like if you give me the list, I can just look everything up and let you know what I have and what I don't.
I think a lot of people don't realize that you can do that as well.
Yeah, and that's it. Everything works differently. A lot of people are like, "Do you can your computer look up things?" And I'm like, "At my store, yes, I can. It's all in the computer. It's
I've
all
definitely
digitally
gone to
recorded."
places where I'm like, "Hey, do you have anything like this?" And they're like, "The shelf's over there,
If I
guy.
yeah if
Go
I
look."
if I have it, it'd be on the floor, right? Yeah, absolutely. But again, that's one of those things where you just ask, "Hey, can you look stuff up?" Or do you have like a digital inventory so I can ask you some questions, right? But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about being a customer. And this is my recommendation for you as a customer, especially if you're new to the area or it's a new video game store. Making small talk is fine. I don't mind that. If I'm working, here's the thing: if you walk in, you can tell if I'm busy or not. If I'm pulling a million things out of a box, you can tell I'm busy. But that doesn't mean I won't talk to you. If you're like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" I'd be like, "Hey, good. How about you?"
I've seen people dead stop and try to talk to you while you're like doing like trades and stuff, and I'm like,
And
bro.
here's the thing, man. Here's the thing, man. Me as an employee, I'm not gonna stop. All right, like if I'm testing something facing the TV with my back turned towards you, and you're like, "Hey, how's it going, man?" I'm like, I'm not gonna turn around. I'm gonna be like, "Hey, good. How about you?" Right? Like I'm doing something, and that's like a little rude of me, absolutely. But also like, especially being the manager, I don't have time to stop and chat to every single person. I never get everything done. But that being said, I'm not still at least going to attempt to make conversation. If you and like I said, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you walk in, you're like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Good. How about you?" "Oh yeah, hey, we have an employee favorites board on the wall, so that way people go, I'm wearing my name tag. They go, "Oh, Josh, you really like playing this game, huh?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, I sure do." They're like, "Oh, I didn't really like that one." I'm like, "Yeah, that's a lot of people didn't like it. I liked XYZ about it. I don't mind chatting like that." But if you're on the other side of the store, you're like, "Oh man, this game sucks, huh? Don't you think?" I'm not yelling across the store to talk to you. That's not
I've
on
seen
the
some really
table.
crazy stuff happen
That's
just
not going to
on the
happen.
customer end as well. It's just like, man, people really just don't care.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think if you
Opposite
work retail, you see that far too often, no matter
opposite
what job you're in.
opposite. Yeah, and I don't want this to come off as like I'm just complaining about my job, because I'm really trying to, like, obviously I have bias, but I'm not just trying to be like, "Oh, customers suck, here's how to not be a sucky customer." But there is really a right way and a wrong way to handle these interactions, and you like I said, you get benefited if you're a nice guy. And Alex, you can attest to this. Like, if you're a collector and you're nice to us, like here at the store, we're gonna take time and help you out if we can, right? Like, we'll, help you get a discount, or if you're spending money all the time, we'll keep an eye out for stuff that you're looking for, right? But yeah, small talk is fine. I had a dude come in maybe a couple weeks ago. He was selling a damaged console. He goes, "Yeah, it works." Okay, well, I have to test it anyway. So I love when people do that. They come in, they go, "Here's all my stuff. Yeah, it works." Okay, just because
Take my word.
you said it doesn't make it true, unfortunately. So I'm gonna test it and take a look at it. And guess what? It didn't work. It's like a PS3 or something. The disk drive the motor was broken or something. He's like, "Well, it's probably just a motor." And I'm like, "Okay, it's gonna be still super discounted." And he's like, "Well, that much? It's just a motor." I'm like, "My headquarters is in like the capital. I have to ship this across the state to send it to my I'm getting paid to put it in a box and send it. We're paying to send it. We're paying someone to unpack the box and give it to repair. We're paying repair to look at it. We're paying repair to order a part. Now we're paying to order the part in. We're paying them to fix it. And then we're paying them to resend it out to another store.
Here's also
Yeah,
the
I'm
thing.
not going to pay you a lot of money."
oh, here's my broken game console. I'll give you $10, right? Is what you would say to them.
Yeah.
And like $10. It's like, can you replace the motor?
I had a guy
Do
today.
you know how to do
I had
that?
a guy today. He was like, "It's going to be that much for a repair." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, I could probably fix it myself." I was like, "Yeah, you can buy a hard drive, Google it, and try and install it on your thing." But I was like, "Be warned that I've seen plenty of people come in and like I've seen plenty of folks come in and say, 'Yeah, I need to get this sent off to get fixed. I tried to fix it myself and I broke it more.'" You know, like
Yeah,
people think they have. You know, it's like I'm going to give you money for something that's busted. You're not going to be able to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. Nobody's going to buy this doorstop from you because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And then this same guy with the PlayStation that was broken or whatever, one of the main things, I see this all the time. He went, "Yeah, I actually bought 5 of these PS3s for $1 a piece." Okay, hey man, that's great. That's so cool for you. One quick thing though. How does that affect me? Why does that matter to me? He said, I think they're all busted. Oh yeah, for $1 a piece, I'm sure they are. I'll have to bring them in though. You guys pay for damaged stuff? Yes, we do. You know, like I take damaged stuff, you know, you're going to get a couple bucks if that, you know, if you've damaged games or damaged stuff, you know, we're maybe talking cents a piece, but I'm taking it off your hands. That's the whole concept.
trading things into a game store is also kind of like a take and give thing. The idea that I go in when I trade stuff into game stores, which I rarely do. I've talked about this before. I do a lot of reselling myself.
Which is how we'll establish this now, is how you get the most money.
Yes.
Period. You will always
100%.
you will always get the most by reselling yourself.
Guess
online.
what? Sometimes I have garbage and I can't get rid of it that easily. I'll bring it to a game store. And they'll give me I think the lowest amount, I trade in 6 games. Just hot garbage. No one wants to buy them, right? I traded into the store and I think I got like $2. And I was like, great deal. I'll take that.
I mean, so yeah, we can talk about trades here. So here's how my trade process works. You bring me in games. Each game has its own value. On average, this is a rough estimate. On average, I'm going to give you in-store credit 50% of what I sell it for. So if you're bringing me a $10 game, you're theoretically getting $5 back. A lot of factors go in here. Do you have the original case? Do you have the instructions? If you're missing the instructions, it's discounted. If you're missing the original case, it's discounted. If your disc is a little scratched up, it's discounted. If your disc is kind of scratched up a lot, it's discounted more. If your disc looks like you went out on the street and rubbed it on the ground for 5 straight minutes, yeah, we're probably going to take it for like a couple cents because there's not a chance I'm going to be able to fix it unless I send it to my HQ. Same thing. I'm shipping it to the Capitol. I'm shipping it to my headquarters, hoping they have a chance to fix it. Right? I'm not going to pay you $8 for this because, well, the game's worth a lot, right? Yes, but if it's damaged, it's damaged, period.
I think also, you said that you give it 50% of what you sell it on the floor for. That's for people that don't know, that's a really good rate. That's like really good because I go into most stores that I'm familiar with or not familiar with and go, they're going to give me 40% of what this game is worth and then deductions from there.
So, and the final thing I want to say is how many my company has. Like I said, we are a chain. I've got stores all over. If you come in and sell Halo, and I sell Halo for, say, $4 or whatever, I'm going to pay you $2 in credit. Now, I don't know if you know this. Halo, super popular game. Millions of copies sold. Not something really rare. Sure, I mean, people will buy it, but I'm not going to sell Halo for $50. Nobody buy it, right? So it's $2. But while my stores all have, 3 copies a piece, I'm not going to pay you $2 for it because I've got 50 sitting at HQ or whatever. So that also drops the price. That's another thing where people really just don't think about it. I mean, this can go without being said, but we are a secondhand store. There are costs. All the 6 employees have to get paid.
The property,
we have
the
to pay
lights.
for rent. We have to pay for electricity. Like all that stuff has to get paid for, and it's coming out of these games. And so I have people nonstop who, are like, oh, I can get more online. You'll always get more online. I tell people that straight up. If somebody comes to me and complains, well, online it's going for this much, I say, you'll always get more online. We're a secondhand store, and I can't pay you online prices. If I'm going to sell it for $90, I can't pay you $90. That's just not how it works. And so if I'm paying you 50% in credit, you can imagine cash is less than that. Cash, I think, is somewhere in the realm of like 30-ish%, and it really depends. It's not easy, and the market changes, absolutely. There are things that have better margins. Switch games are hot. If you trade me in 10 Switch games, by the end of the day, I'll probably have sold 5 of them. So, Switch margins hold up a little bit better. I offer more on Switch games.
I like
right?
to call it the Switch tax.
Yep. There's items that sell better that have better margins, and that's just always going to be true for the new hottest thing that's always selling off the shelves. And the market's trending up. A lot of things, I mean, PS3 games, if you looked at PS3 games like 2 years ago, you could go buy Puppeteer for $12. It's like a $60 game now.
That's a good point to point out as well, is the fact that 3-4 years ago, NES was huge. I mean, the
Yep.
market for that was on fire.
Yep.
And now it's starting to switch towards like N64, GameCube. We're starting to see a lot of prices rising over there now.
Yep. All the stuff people
PS3
had.
went up.
A lot of games people had when they were kids. Well, now those people are adults who have full-time paying jobs, and they want to buy that stuff back. Man, wasn't it so fun when I had an N64 and I played Majora's Mask all the time, right? Well, I want to go buy back all those things. You know, I have people complain about Pokemon prices nonstop. It's probably the thing I hear the most, the complaint I get the most at the store.
Pokemon is popular, and the demand is exponential.
On r/game collecting, those people drive me crazy because they're like, I can't believe my secondhand store is charging these prices. They're selling Pokemon for $140. You know what's insane about charging $140 for Pokemon? I had people come buy it every day, every week. I had a guy come in today and pay $40 for Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun. That's just how it is. People will pay those prices, and that's why they are those prices. And I'm not trying to screw you over as an employee. That's where the market is.
It's supply and demand.
And
It's
online,
as simple as that.
and it's the same thing online. You'll say, well, I can buy it for $90 on eBay. Yeah, on eBay, you're going to find like 5 listings that are $100, and you're going to find 25 listings that are $120. So I'm going to sell it at $100.
Here's also my thing: if we're talking about Pokemon, this is the perfect point to bring it up at too. You can buy it cheaper online. Sure, some of those games, like Pokemon games, you better just hope you don't get a fake coming to you in the mail.
I'm glad you touched on this. This is something I think about all the time. So many people don't think about this as a customer here. When you buy a game from me, you're not just paying for the game. You go home with a week guarantee on used items. So you get a week if something doesn't work or you just don't like it, I can return or exchange it. You're paying for that coverage. You're paying for me testing it. When it came into the store, I looked at it. I made sure it was hunky-dory before I put it on the floor.
You cleaned it.
I cleaned it. I put it in a new case. Whatever it needed to be done to it, I did it. So when you look at, something like a DS Pokemon game, you go, I can't believe it's this much. Well, you're not just paying for Pokemon, you're paying for the week guarantee if something breaks. You're paying for all this extra service stuff that goes on top of that. Those prices are baked in. So when I have all these people on r/game collecting who go, I can't believe retail places are charging this much. The market is trending that way. The market has been trending that way for the past 3 years. And also, like, we are a business. Our goal is to make money, right? Like,
It's not a garage sale.
If you go to a car dealership, you go, I can't believe they ripped me off at the car dealership. It is their job to make money at the car dealership. They're trying to get as much money out of you as possible. That's their literal job. Same with a pawn shop. If you go sell stuff at a pawn shop, they're going to give you, are they going to give you a fair price at a pawn shop? Probably not. It is their job to increase their margins and make as much money as possible. And I'm not saying like, every retail store that takes in trade-ins is going to screw you over. I'm just saying, like, keep in mind their job is to make money. And that's how it is, and that's how it always will be. If you want to pay cheap, yeah, you can go online, but maybe it's not tested, maybe it's a fake. When all that stuff comes into my store, I double, triple check it, and it all goes through me to make sure what I'm selling is the real deal. So
I think it's also a good time to point out that, prices like where Josh works. Josh's store is what I would consider a professional used video game store.
Again, we have like a headquarters. We have processes.
You have training.
Yep. I've got everything is like documented on how you're going to, like, if you started working at my place, there's documentation. You're going to sign stuff. I'm going to show you what the official way to do stuff is, right? Like, it's not just like, I don't know, I could give you probably $25 for that. It's like, I have a computer and the computer has like a bunch of math in it, and the math tells me what to tell you how much the price is.
And then I've been to places where you go in and they got Atari Combat labeled for like $20.
It's like a $4 game.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah.
If that. And then like it's just like, these aren't maintained. They're they definitely haven't been cleaned.
Yep. It's just like it came in, they put a sticker on it, they put it on the floor.
Yep. And I think it's important to remember which type of store you at.
Yep. Definitely
Are you
something
at a
to keep
place
in
that's
mind.
really looking after these games and cleaning them up and making them look nice? Are their displays really nice?
Yeah.
Or is everything thrown into like a bucket?
Yeah. Is I go to the PS2 selection and there's 19 copies of Madden 2003 on the floor. Kind of gives me an idea of what I'm looking at, right? Yeah, I don't know. It's not easy. It's not easy working at the store. I'm sure it's, at times it is. It sucks to sell stuff. I get people who are like mad when they're like, "Oh man, I'm trying to get the most out of my stuff," and it's like I get that. Also, we're a business, right? That's just how it is. I'm not.
If you're trying to get the most out of your stuff for video games and you're going to a brick and mortar store first, you are doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's just you're not going to get the most there, which sucks. But also, that's how life is.
The way you should view brick and mortar stores is either a easy way to sell a lot fast,
Yep.
or a last ditch effort to get the most you can.
Yeah, get rid out of what you can't sell, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's talk about something that is close and near to my heart, and that's how to prove yourself as a collector.
Yeah. So, okay, I see this a bunch. I've got this dude who comes in. I'm going to derail a little bit, but I'm going to bring it back to your collector-ness. This guy who comes in, and he's like, hey, I buy Sega stuff. You got a lot of Sega collectors? I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have a couple big Sega collectors. He's like, yeah.
No. I'm sorry.
Nobody in this room, I'm sure, but yeah, he's like, oh, yeah, I bet you don't see a lot of Sega collectors, right? Which is not a good way to start a positive interaction if you go, oh, well, I collect this thing. I bet you see nobody who collects that. It's like, I see people who collect it all, so you're not special. But he's like, he comes in all the time, every week. He's a regular. I have stuff on the counter, I'm sorting and going through, and he'll start grabbing stuff and moving piles. And is this for sale yet? Is this for sale? I'm like, no, please don't touch it. It'll be out later tonight. And so now he knows when I put stuff out. So then he'll, like, every week he'll show up on the same day and do all this stuff, right? So there was some complicated thing that happened where he wanted to buy something. He did an order on the website. He wanted to buy it, but it was already an order for another person. So we're like, it's not available. And then a bunch of price changes happened. Things changed price. They like tripled in value because market is crazy, has been for the past couple of years. And then he sent some big snarky email that was like, and I've seen a couple of these emails from people where they go, oh, well, I've spent XYZ amounts of money and I just feel like I'm not being respected, which is valid. If we treat you like dirt, that sucks. Did we treat him like dirt? No, we sure didn't. The price got updated because it was something we hadn't had traded into the system. So he sends this email, I spent XYZ amounts of money, I'm upset, okay? And it's like, what? He's upset because this item got traded in and the price like tripled in value. That sucks, for sure. Also, it literally didn't matter to him because he couldn't buy it. It was an order for another customer. It literally didn't matter.
There was one in the company.
There was one in the company.
And it was already bought.
There was one in the company, and it was set aside for an order for somebody else who was not him. So he throws his fit. Something like that. I will remember you. My wife and I, we're shopping somewhere at Target, and I'll point at someone, or I'll be like, hey, see that guy over there? Rachel's like, yeah. I was like, yeah, he like yelled at one of my employees once. I won't forget. I got to think for faces. I won't remember your name. What? That guy yells? Yeah. What if you go to a job interview in a year? I'm not going to a
job interview.
No, he goes, what if you go to a job interview tomorrow? I'm not going to a job interview.
But what if you did?
And no, he goes, in a year you might.
That guy yells.
They'll all be like, yeah, this guy seems like a good candidate. And I'll walk in and I'll be like, no, this guy yells.
If you're a fan of I Think You Should Leave, there you go.
But I'll remember. So now every time he comes in, it doesn't matter how nice he is to me. I remember the email he sent where he was like, I'm upset and I should be compensated for it, right? If you yell at me, if you yell at my employees, I will remember. We have the ability to like mark accounts. So it's just for like if somebody stole from the company and now we're like banning them from the store, we can be like banned from the store, right? We have the ability to be like, if you did something, we can just ban you from the store or do whatever, right? Obviously we tell you. Usually it's like if you stole stuff, we'll get a cop involved.
Hey, don't come back.
Yeah. We won't forget. I won't forget. My employees won't forget. If you burn that bridge, it's gone forever, right? And that's something I think should really be known before if they mess up, if I forget a disc, you're valid. If you come in and you're like, hey, I live 2 hours away, this sucks, I had to drive all the way back, and that's valid. But also for something like that, when I actually mess up, usually I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry that happened. Here's like a $10 gift card or $20 gift card or whatever. Right? I'll own up to my mistakes when things are legitimately wrong. If you're just complaining to complain, that ain't gonna fly. You don't just get to
personally
say,
hand delivered discs to my home that people have forgotten from the store.
yep, absolutely. And it's just like there are levels where like if you're like I'm upset about this thing, I'm like, oh, I could get being upset. But if you're just like, well, I spent a lot of money and this sucks, that's not a reason to be upset, I think. And also you trying to flash your money as if like I spend $100 every time there's a sale. Oh, dang, man. Sorry, we're losing your business. That sucks. I got plenty of people who only come in during sales, and they're like, yeah, I bet you don't see many collectors like me, huh? What, that only come in when they get a deal? Yeah, I see plenty of collectors like you, man. Probably about like 10 to 15 every time there's a big sale, which is fine. Whatever, buy it when you're getting a deal, absolutely. This is another thing I get a lot where people are like, oh, well, you're selling a PS4 controller for $52. I can just go to Walmart and buy one for $50. Yeah, here's the thing, though. I'm not like a multi-billion-dollar mega corporation who's slowly killing the earth. I'm like a guy who's trying to pay for bills and like spend time with my wife. So just something to think about. Like we are a small business. We are a local store. So, things might be more expensive. You're also directly paying my bills, right? Like it's not like, oh, my money goes into the hands of like multi-billion-dollar national corporations who are dictating the future of our country by paying politicians. I'm just like a dude.
You're not out there lobbying for like video game laws.
Here's the thing. I definitely am not. I'm just like a guy. So think about that when you're like, if you're like, should I buy from this or should I buy from Walmart? Should I buy from my local game store? Just come ask. At least look, right?
Support your local game stores.
Please.
Support your local card shops, your board game shops, your video game shops. Support them all.
I had a guy call me on the phone a couple weeks ago. He said, yeah, so do you guys have this game brand new? And I'm like, yeah, I have a new copy for $60. He goes, so what's the difference if I buy it from you or Walmart? And I was like, I'm a small business. Walmart isn't. He's like, oh, duh. He's like, yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, I'll be in a couple hours. So I'm like, thank you for paying my bills, sir. Like, it's something that it's another one of those things where I think people just don't think about it. Where it's just like, whatever, it's just a store. It's not just a store. We are like a local business.
Or the community starts seeing you as a big business, even though you're not.
Yep.
Because like maybe your store does it the best in town.
Yep.
So you're the big video game store in town, but you're not a Walmart.
Look, man, I still have 6 employees at my store, right? So anyways, back to collectors. Let's talk about how to prove your worth as a collector. Because I have plenty of collectors who, I've had people who come and they say, yeah, I'm kind of a big spender. I collect these things, right? And saying I collect this versus I am a collector, there is a difference. If you collect things but don't buy them that often, that's like, okay, I have a collection. If you're a collector is like, I buy things and I'm willing to buy things often.
A collector is me who goes in and goes, that seems cool. I'll buy it right now.
Yep.
Oh, you're going to show me like 6 other things? I guess I'll buy that too. Oh, there's more yet? Oh, all right, fine. My bill is getting to be like $300, guys. Can we just like hold off? And then like, but what about this? I'm like,
bro, stop, I'm dying.
Stop, you're killing the band.
If something amazing comes in, let's say like Hagane comes in, $1,500 Super Nintendo game. Hagane comes in, I let my collectors know that Hagane came in.
Yeah.
And, you could say that's not fair. What about the standard person? Okay, well, I don't really think the standard person is going to drop $1,500 on a Super Nintendo game. So I let the people who have consistently spent that much money in the store in the past, I let them know. And some people come in less frequent than others. But these are people who I know if I have something they want, they'll come in and pay for it. No questions asked. People like you, people like our Vita collector, our Sega collector, our biggest collector in town. I send photos to the people who have, kind of proven themselves that if I send them something, they'll come and they'll pay for it. A guy who was like, yeah, I'm a pretty big Nintendo collector. If you see any cool NES stuff, let me know. Like boxed, he said, do you see any boxed NES stuff? I said, rarely, not very often. Boxed, whatever. We're talking, at this point, 40-year-old games with the original cardboard and instructions, like not something I see super often.
Talked a lot about that in our Solomon's Key episode, so go check that out if you want to hear about that.
So finally, a trade comes in. It's got a bunch of in-box Nintendo stuff. So I reach out, and I'm like, my boss is like, well, we should just tell one of our big collectors. And I'm like, well, let's give this guy a chance at least, right? I send him a message. Hey, I've got 25 games, all complete in box, with the instructions in pretty minty shape. This would be the prices. Here's a photo. This would be the prices.
Yeah, we also talked about 45-year-old cardboard. Don't see a lot of it.
Yep.
You're looking at least like, you gotta think like 50 plus for a game.
And it depends. I mean, there's some inbox games that are $20, and there are some inbox games that are gonna be like 300, right, or 80, or 150, right? It really ranges. So here's my prices. Yeah, they're kind of expensive. Also, they're rare and we don't see them. And that being said, my boss directly does the pricing on a lot of this super rare stuff, and he usually is still going below market value. Just because he knows like that we need to sell it, right? We don't want it to sit around for three months. We're gonna price it a little aggressively so we can get it gone. So I send him this thing, 25 games, all the prices, and he goes, can I come in and look at this one game? And I'm like, sure, that's fine, right? So he comes in, he looks at the one game, and he goes, I think I'm gonna pass for now, thanks. I don't know, man, that was a test and you failed. I need to know that you're serious about this stuff.
Yeah.
There's a right and a wrong way to do it. If you look at me and you say, oh, I already have all those ones, thanks. It's like, okay, I'll still keep you in mind. But if you just say, oh, I don't really care about these, I want to look at one. You look at one, you go, I'm good. Okay, well, I held on to all these games for like a week for you to come to the store and look at them, for you to just say, no, I don't want them, when I could have just messaged like Alex or potentially somebody who would come in and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy like 8 of these right now. And you would just pay for it and it'd be done, right? So,
It's important to bring up the fact that, you mentioned that, oh, this was a test and you failed it. When you start talking about potentially $300+ buys, or in your case, you're selling them, but like, it's starting to, most of the time, I think game stores will start off small. Mm-hmm. Well, here's 3 inbox NES games. You were talking that you wanted these, come and see. If you're not prepared for that, especially once you've put yourself out there, because these aren't just people. These aren't, hey, this is Susan that lives 3 blocks away and she'll hold on to this forever if I don't buy it.
Right.
This is a business trying to sell.
Yeah.
If you go, hey, I'm looking for this specific thing. I'm looking for NES games. I'm looking for N64 games. And you go in on the first time they contact you and they're just like, nah, that's too expensive. Nah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm just not interested.
Just say.
You will not get back up on that list for a long time.
You just need to converse, right? Like if you like I said, if you say, yeah, I have all these. Okay, good. Yeah, these are a bit rich for my blood. Okay, we can talk about pricing. Like I'm not, for cardboard, it really depends. Sometimes I'll pay a lot, sometimes I won't. So, I mean, like the pricing can be flexible on some stuff for sure.
Yeah, especially like if they're like oddball games like Sims 2000 for the Super Nintendo. Man, how many people are really looking for that game, first off? Right. But if it's like Mario 64 complete in box, you're not gonna really be able to budge on those prices.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if it's
people want that.
If it's something I can sell, yeah, the price is not gonna be able to budge a lot. If it's something weird that's probably gonna sit around forever, yeah, I might be able to flex a little bit more, absolutely. But essentially, yeah, if you just need to converse and say, because yeah, if you say, yeah, I don't want them, thanks though, that's not helpful, and I'm not going to message you again. But if you're like, man, none of these really grab my eye, or if you say, oh, I have interest in these 3, but I don't really have money right now, is it okay if you hold them for a week? Just ask. The worst I can do is say, no, unfortunately, I can't hold them that long. Or, I can help folks out. I don't mind helping folks out. You just need to converse and be upfront, because like the worst I can do is say no. And I think a lot of people walk into a game store, like I said, same with the GameCube stuff, where they say, oh, I don't see a GameCube, they must not have it. I live in this place for 8 hours a day. I live to serve. If you have a question, I will answer it. That's just it, man. My job is to answer your question. Hey, do you have Mario on the PS4? No, I don't. Well, are you going to get it anytime? No, they didn't make Mario on the PS4. Well, why not? He's a Nintendo exclusive. Why not? That's dumb. Okay, well, have a good day, sir. Right?
Bye.
Like, yeah, like that's I doesn't matter how stupid your question is. My job, quite literally, is to answer it. I'm there to help. I'm like an all-seeing mage. I know it all. I see it all. I'm here to help. Just ask. Yeah. If you're a collector, reach out and talk, and we will help you. And if you're like Alex and you want to buy it all, say that. Hey,
don't do that. It's a bad idea. I've spent way too much money, man.
Don't do that. But also just ask. Hey, I'm looking for some rare games. Can you guys keep an eye out and let me know? Or I've got a collector who emails me probably twice a day. And he's like, hey, can you order this? Hey, is this complete? Can you order this? Like, I don't mind helping him, because I know every 2 months he's gonna order like 50 games, and every 2 months he's gonna come in and pay for those games, right?
I'm trying to think back to when I first really started shopping at the store. been a long time customer. Been shopping there since I was a kid.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. I remember selling like my N64 and NES and a bunch of games when I was like, I don't know, I think I was like 13 for $91. I remember that to this day.
Nice.
I got $91 for
What'd you buy?
I took the money.
Oh, you took cash.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. I just took the money. I think I went out and like put it towards like an Xbox 360 or something.
There you go.
I can't quite remember what it was, or maybe it was before that. Maybe it was like PS2 stuff. I can't remember.
Sure.
Forever lives in my mind. But I've been shopping there for a long time. I remember we knew each other outside of work before.
Yeah,
this.
we knew a friend. We had board game nights and stuff like that.
Yeah, we were hanging out, but we weren't close friends yet. We just knew of each other. And you were like, "Hey, I work at this store," and I'm like, "Holy crap, that's really cool."
Well, it was like
I'm gonna stop in.
I don't even think it was that. I think it was quite literally like you came in one day and I was like, "Whoa, I know you." You're like, "I know you." I'm like, "You shop here?" You're like, "Yeah, I sure do." I'm like, "That's crazy that we knew each other before this and now you're like a regular at my job."
Yeah, and like I can't remember what the first thing I said that I was looking for. It was something, and I was just like, "Hey, I buy a lot of video games. I'm looking for something like this."
And it also, I will say this, obviously, duh, it helps that you're my friend outside of it, right?
Yeah, that I think pushed me far ahead of most people initially.
Right.
But you know, I've had to make my way through other companies too.
I was gonna say I also push, right? Like if there's somebody who I know is looking for something, like when you started like collecting stuff, we would get a collection in, and you know, it used to be like, oh, just send a photo to the big collector and he'll buy it all. And I'd be like, okay, but we do have some other people kind of on the horizon here, like same thing, like you know, giving people a test or something like that, where I'm like, we have these other collectors who kind of want to look for stuff. Right, like if a bunch of PlayStation stuff comes in, I might reach out to the Sega guy and the Vita guy because I know they're kind of PlayStation guys too. I might reach out to, you know, I'm not just going to reach out to the big collector every time, which I know is like, that sucks for him. He's like, I wish you know, if it was up to him, every photo would go to him first. But it's just like, I kind of want to help out everyone in the community. I can't just, you know, it sucks for me to just be like, well, I'm not going to help out Alex. I'm not going to help out my Vita collector, my Sega collector, my Dreamcast collectors.
There's plenty of things that you don't show me.
Oh, absolutely. There are plenty of things because there are things that come in where I'm like, this is going straight to the big collector. Just period. There's something I know when it comes in, whether I'm like I'm going to send it to my big collectors or whether I'm going to kind of like maybe send some photos here and there. There's some stuff. I had some loose Sega CD games. I didn't send photos to anyone because I'm just like, you know. Some people might look on the website, be like, "Hey, you have these. I want to buy them," but I wasn't gonna send you photos. I'd be like, "Hey, I have these loose Sega CD games," because you'd probably be like, maybe I'm probably good." So it's just like it's
it's things like that you want to collect like complete in case.
Yeah,
and like so it's hard to sell that out initially.
It's cool that it's like it's cool that I have Sega CD games. It sucks that they don't have the original case or instructions, right? So it's just kind of like, yeah, you're good, and it's something like that I know. Man, somebody, I don't remember who it was. It was like a friend of mine came in and sold, but they had a ton. They had like a Pokemon Sapphire in box. They had like a ton of like insane high quality like Game Boy Advance complete stuff from their childhood, and they brought it all in, got a ton of credit, stuff like that. I was like, yeah, this is immediately gonna, because it's just like Pokemon Sapphire complete in box is gonna be like $400-$500 or whatever, right? So it's just like, I could send you a photo, but you might be like, oh, I don't have the money right now. If I send a photo to my big collector, he might be like, yeah, I'm going to come in tomorrow and buy that, right? So it just kind of depends on who I think will be able to buy it quickly, and it's also how in demand it's going to be.
Let's also look at the fact that me and you, we keep saying the big collector in town, the big collector in town. And if people have been listening, they know that I have a wall of games, and that sounds like crazy big, and they're like, you know, what does big collector actually mean? So currently in the game room, I'm nearing about 3,000 physical copies.
3,000 games.
Yeah, 3,000 games, which is huge for people.
Yeah,
people come down here and they're in awe.
What you have compared to what I have is like insane. You have at least probably quadruple of what I have, at least.
When we talk about the big collector, and I think really every like community area will have the big collector.
Yeah. Our
big collector in our community, I have 3,000 games. He has like 30,000 games or something.
It's insane. It's insane. You ever heard of the Super Nintendo exercise bike? Oh, no, you haven't? That's crazy. He's got 2 of them.
Ever heard of...
No, I think he's got 1. You ever heard of the Super Nintendo piano? Yeah, he's got 2 of them, one sealed in box. Like,
Ever heard of the NES television? Oh, well, he has one of them.
yeah, it's like insane. We're talking like, Xbox kiosks and this and that and the other thing. He's got it all. It's insane.
He has storage units and storage units of games.
Really, I would die. I was gonna say I've never seen any of his stuff. I would die to see photos.
I talk quite regularly with him.
Yeah.
We have a little chat group with one of the other collectors in town, and we send each other stuff of like, hey, I got this. Oh, I got that. There are times that he'll send us stuff, and I sit back and I'm like, that's like $4,000 or $5,000 and like a handful of things.
Yep.
And you're just like, man. And like, or my favorite ones is when he goes to like conventions.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
he goes to everywhere for conventions. Dude will literally send a picture of like probably a 2-foot high stack of nothing but manuals from all sorts of games.
Oh, he loves the paper.
He
wants
loves
the paper.
paper, man.
I mean, it is, when you think about it, it is the perfect trading tool.
Yeah, it
It's
really is.
I have something that you want, and it is paper, and it's hard to find. And that is worth a lot to you to have a complete version of your, number one thing.
So, I mean, you got to take into concept of like when a company says, oh, the big collector, they mean someone that like just has oodles and gobs of stuff.
We'll come in, drop $1,000
and not bat an eye.
and not bat an eye. Absolutely. So yeah, if you want to look at me and say like, oh, I'm not getting the collector treatment, right? Like you're treating these customers better than me. Absolutely correct, because you're in here buying like $60 of PS2 games. I've got a collector who's going to pay $1,000 for like the primo stuff that I'm getting in, right?
There's a guy that'll come in and buy 2 things and spend $1,500 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll happen.
And it's, people it's all different to different people. Some people are going to be like, I spend a lot, but a lot to them might be $40 every 2 weeks, whereas a lot for you is like,
I come in, I'm just
a
like,
lot for you is I'm texting Alex every week saying like, hey, when are you going to come in and buy your $400 worth of stuff, right? Every game store is going to be different, and I feel like I'm worried that this episode just came off as me complaining a whole bunch again. But
it's important to like, I would call it like know your weight class in a store.
Each store is going to be different.
Know the people.
Don't walk in like you're a big shot. You have to kind of work your way in. It's definitely worth getting to know folks. Like I've met, there was a dude who bought some Funko Pops recently who he was like, hey, I'm going to buy like 5 Funko Pops. Is there any way you could do a deal? I asked my boss. He was like, yeah, it's fine. Do like 10% off. And I was like, yeah, my boss said it's fine. He's like, awesome, man. Thanks so much. My name's Hector or whatever, right? It was like, hey, good to meet you. I'm Josh. I'm the manager here. He's like, awesome, man. Well, I'm definitely going to come back and buy more, right? So it's like, definitely get to know and talk with them in a polite way. Like, I don't mind talking with folks. There's plenty of regulars I know. I have multiple contacts in my phone who I've been chatting with, like regulars at the store who we talk about movies or video games, or I've hung out with dudes who are like, hey man, we're all going to do a Dreamcast party. You should come over and hang out, right? Like, I know plenty of folks who I consider friends that I met through work and I know through work, right? So it's like, just get in there and be nice, but don't be creepy. Don't hit on
the employees.
Please don't hit on the employees. I've seen it before. Please don't. We used to have, and this is like, bro, come on. We had like a 16-year-old working the till, and it's just like,
some 35-year-old
come
dude.
on, man. Walk away, dude. This is about to be a federal crime right now. Like, it's gross. So be nice, be respectful, be courteous. We mentioned this kind of in the last episode too, but you can definitely be like, hey, here's my card, or here's my phone number. Or if you have an account, hey, I'm always looking for stuff like this. If you ever get anything like this, please send me photos. Like, I don't mind texting people. I don't mind being like, hey, I know you'd mentioned blah, blah, blah. I've called folks and let them know, hey, I know you were looking for this. I got this in. Just let me know. But it's like, there's a limit, right? If you're like, I'm a collector, and then I call you and you're like, yeah, I can come in a month and look at it. Yeah, it's not going to fly. I'm going to sell it to somebody else before then, right? Like,
money talks in brick and mortar stores.
Yep.
If you're collecting, a brick and mortar store will be your best friend and your enemy at the same time.
Yep.
There's been plenty of times where I've gotten like the grails in my collection from like the store and stuff.
Yep.
It's also times where I have been talking with the district manager and he's like, I got this special game in. We're asking $150. And I looked him dead in the face and gone, no, it's like $75 anywhere else. And it's like, it's totally cool. You want to try to sell it for that? I could do 75. That's where I'm at. If you're not, chill. And like it's just being respectful about it.
Yeah, and you're not like that's fucking bullshit. You're like, hey, I could do it for this much money, but that much is going to be too high. And again, same thing. The worst I can say is like, yeah, no, I can't go that low, right?
Yeah, we're firm on 120, not 75.
Yep.
And you just gotta know when to walk away, man. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, don't keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Like if I say, no means no, I know we have to teach the children this, but sometimes adults need the lesson too. If you're like, hey, can you do any better on this? And I say no, there's no deal. Like specifically my store, headquarters sets my prices. I don't have control over the price. I can discount a little bit here and there to be nice when I want to. I have that free reign, but like I can't just give you something for free because you want it, right? Like if you're like, I bought some dude bought like 3 Wii U games. He's like, hey man, will you give me a deal if I buy a bunch of games? I was like, no, headquarters sets my prices. Now that being said, if that guy had bought in like 15 Wii U games, I probably would have done like 10% off or something like that.
The guy buys out your entire shelf.
Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, I can do a deal, right? But he bought like 2 or 3 games. Yeah, sorry man, I can't do a deal, right? Like just not how it works.
If you're not prepared to spend money at a brick and mortar store, don't try to finance.
That's the thing.
Finance your way through it and be like, oh, I'm thrifty. I'm gonna get the best deal there.
I always had that intention when I go to local game stores, even like card shops and stuff like that around town. If I am visiting somewhere, like we were in one of the other towns north of here recently, and they have a local game store. I went there. It's a really small like card shop. Amazing store. They had a bunch of old Magic cards and they had like packs. They had like 2014 Commander decks. They had like old sealed product, which is like insane. And
if you know Magic, you know exactly what Josh is talking about, and your jaw is
it's crazy. They had like crazy thing. I was blown away that somewhere this close to me was selling like this old sealed product. I usually especially when I'm visiting somewhere, I go to a local game store or a local card shop expressly with the intention of like, it doesn't matter what it is, I'm going to buy something and leave with something. I don't like to go into a local game store and then just be like, I'm good, and leave, right? Like that sucks, right?
And, it's not to say sometimes you do have to do that.
Yeah, there are definitely times where I would walk in and be like, there's nothing here I really want. But, I'll at least buy a pack of Magic cards. There's, it doesn't have to be like a $50 item.
Buy something small, no matter what. It doesn't kind of the goal.
Doesn't have to be a $50 item, right? But I'll at least, here's $6, right? Or something, right? Just to say, I was here, I bought something, right? Especially opening Magic cards. It's kind of like lottery, right? Oh, yeah, I was down in Georgia and I opened a pack and I got a $50 card out of a pack. That's the Atlanta luck, right? But just, know your limits, stay within it, right? So
fight in your weight class.
Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be it for the episode today. We went way longer than I thought we were going to. I was worried these episodes are going to be like 30 minutes long. I think the last one's kind of short, but I got a lot to say about work, man. I ain't even close to scratching the surface, man. I could complain and complain and complain. All you people out there. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to complain about work. I definitely have my issues. I mean, all my issues boil down to it's a retail job, right? So it's like that's pretty much where it all comes from. But please leave us a comment down below.
r/anti-work is just like there with you. Just be like,
Yeah. Leave us a comment down below. Let us know if this was helpful or if you thought I was just complaining to complain about my job.
Yeah, do you want us to talk about more specific things? Do you want us to retouch on subjects?
Yeah, let us know if there's something, especially with these we're calling them text-only episodes. Let us know if there's something you want us to mention. There's a topic where you want to say, hey, how do you get to know collectors in your area? Or how do you guys buy games?
How do you start networking?
Yeah, how do you know what's a good deal, right? Like, yeah, if you have more topics or stuff you want us to reach on, we'd love to talk about more about video games, about how we collect stuff. And
how do I fight my local store's manager?
Oh, that's easy. All you gotta do is ask. You act like we don't have a fight club every other weekend behind the dumpster out back. So, yeah, I want to do an episode maybe where we talk about like the grails in our collection or the best items in our collection. I think that'd be fun to kind of show and tell moment. # humble brag, etc.
# not humble brag. # hard brag.
Hard brag. Yep. Yeah, but thanks so much. Please let your friends know about the podcast. Share it. Hopefully soon. I think we're going to keep looking at it. We want to do streaming somewhere, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or you name it. We're going to look into that more.
It's in the works.
It's all in the works, right? So, but yeah, let everybody know. Please give us a share on Facebook or on YouTube or whatever, man. It all helps. So thanks so much. But yeah, I've been Josh.
I'm Alex. This has been the Quick Save Podcast.
Slime, drink it all the time.
All right, lock her up, boys. Shut off the lights.
Wait, do you want to? Hold on. Do you want to? Lord, food the tooth. There you go. That'd be pretty good, I think.